Coming up on Now See This.
The water hit me, it pinned me to the very bottom, and it just kept churning.
Firefighters face a backdraft and are literally blown away. A driver in distress
There is a board explorer over the edge of the overpass.
is hanging by a tread. And badass bikers learn why this run is called the Kamikaze Drop. When we say it's fast, furious, and in your face, that's no bull. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. After an afternoon of rain, parts of Florida's Shell Creek can be positively picturesque. But just upstream is an image of horror. C.W. Lehue and Jim Moss were working on the top of the Punta Gorda Dam when one slipped into the frothing water, taking both of them down. Now their safety lines are the only things saving them from certain death. Charlotte County Sheriff and fire rescue crews have been unsuccessful in their attempts. So an emergency call is made to the top guns of water rescue, the U.S. Coast Guard. C.W. and Jim have been beaten by the deluge for over an hour. Their strength is gone. But as Coast Guard rescue swimmer John Rice descends into the tumultuous waters, he's not feeling as strong as usual either.
I'd never worked in swift water, so I had to call upon all my training and just kind of do my best.
The water immediately grabs John's respect and attention.
The water hit me, it pinned me to the very bottom, and it just kept churning. At that point, I knew that the magnitude of the rescue was not going to be easy.
Once his team winches him out of the torrent, John realizes one of the men has more than water threatening to kill him.
CW actually had a lanyard tied around his neck, and it was actually cutting off his airway. So that increased the magnitude and the urgency to get him free so he could breathe.
Descending again, John puts the rescue sling around CW and tries to find his knife to cut him free. But the avalanche of water makes every task a challenge. Finally, the line is severed, and CW is on his way up. The team makes a quick assessment of his injuries. But John's fellow rescuer, Zach, observes a chilling development in the water below.
Zach touched my shoulder and was like, "John, he just went under."
Jim Moss has disappeared. It appears he succumbed to the dam's deluge. John Rice heads down again, knowing he may only find Jim's lifeless body. He follows the safety line down under the surface. As he reaches the end, he prepares for the worst and yanks on the dead weight. But the water pulls the line out of John's hand. He takes hold again, and this time, Jim's head emerges from behind the wall of water.
He just let out this massive gasp of air like he had been holding his breath for a very long time.
Unbelievably, Jim is alive. John cuts his safety line and holds on tight, riding skyward to the awaiting helicopter.
After they released CW's weight from the cable, the current was so strong that it just basically closed off any path of air. So I went back under the column of water. To the right of me was the dam wall, and over top of me was a column of water, and I had like a channel through there where I could just basically hang there and breathe.
Miraculously, 15 minutes after escaping the water's grip, both men were up and walking in the hospital. when they easily could have been lying in the morgue.
There's no doubt in my mind that both of those men thought that they were going to die.
I thought I'd probably never see my wife again, but I figured that I could hang in there as long as I could.
But to hang on for over an hour, CW and Jim needed support. Support they got from each other.
Back and forth hollering at one another. You all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Are you all right? We went in it together. We're going all the way through it together.
I knew good and well when I saw that orange and white helicopter come across that tree line, I knew I was in good hands and I was going to get out of that.
The two men never lost hope, but without their miracle from above, they wouldn't have survived.
The Coast Guard's definitely our angels from heaven. They saved our lives.
It's rush hour in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and traffic is even more backed up than usual. A desperate 911 call reveals why.
There is an Ford Explorer that just is hanging over the edge of the overpass over 46A. I mean, he's hanging by like a tire or something.
28-year-old waitress Christine McMichael was driving to work when she had to slam on her brakes to avoid an accident. Her SUV flipped over the guardrail, and now the truck is hanging from the edge of the overpass, 50 feet above the highway below. The first rescuers to arrive make a startling discovery. The only thing suspending the vehicle is a 1/8-inch bolt on the undercarriage that's snagged on the ledge. Even the slightest movement could cause the unstable SUV to plummet to the asphalt below, meaning certain death for this wife and mother of an 8-month-old son. Christine desperately wants to climb out, but until more help arrives, she must remain perfectly still as she relies on the tiny piece of metal to restrain the 2-ton truck. An agonizing half-hour later, rescuers from the Sanford Fire Department arrive on scene, accompanied by tow trucks and a rescue crane. As one crew slowly rides the rescue basket toward the dangling SUV, other workers delicately use cables and chains to anchor the teetering truck on the overpass. Moments later, the basket glides into position above the open passenger side window. It's like threading a needle on a high wire as the rescuers carefully drop a harness down to Christine. After a torturous hour spent remaining perfectly still, strapping on a harness is an unnerving task. Especially when Christine's every movement causes the truck to creak and shift beneath her. But once the harness is on, an even more terrifying part of the rescue begins. Christine must climb up through the passenger window. It's the farthest, most precarious 5 feet she's ever traveled. But at last, she's out of her dangling steel coffin and into the hands of the Sanford rescue team. As she rides back to solid ground, Christine's mind replays her ordeal, starting with a harrowing realization just after the crash.
I remember looking down out the driver's side window, and I could see the road below, and I could see the cars going by, and at that point I thought, oh my gosh, I'm hanging from the bridge.
Christine had a cell phone in the SUV, but her first call wasn't to 911.
I just wanted to call my husband, and I called him and said, honey, I'm dangling from an I-4 bridge, can you come and get me?
It's a call that breaks her husband's heart.
You got your loved one calling you, hanging on for dear life, and you can't do anything because you're so damn far away.
Thankfully, witnesses did call the authorities immediately. But for Christine, the time between the crash and the rescue seemed like an eternity.
I just remember holding on to the steering wheel very tightly and just thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna fall. I kept thinking I just wanted to see my baby, I just want to see my husband.
But staying calm was crucial, so Christine took comfort in the presence of the rescue crew.
There were so many people standing by, and I was talking to them, and I think that really helped keep me calm, just knowing that there were so many people there waiting to help me.
Still, nothing could beat the feeling of escaping the dangling truck and stepping into the well-anchored rescue basket.
That's when I lost it. That's when I knew I was safe, and all my emotions came out.
Moments after her rescue, Christine is reunited with her husband, and the relieved couple are driven home very carefully. Today, Christine McMichael is back to being a full-time waitress and mother. She's a long way from hanging off the edge of that interstate overpass, but she keeps the Sanford Fire Department close to her heart.
If it wasn't for them, I would still be stuck there.
For firefighters in Montevideo, Uruguay, a blaze at a hardware store is much worse than it first seems. The firefighters break through the front door, only to find a monster waiting for them. Backdraft. The entire team bears the brunt of the blast. It's a moment, thankfully, few people will ever experience. But fire safety expert Dan Madrigal knows exactly what those guys went through.
The feeling is overwhelming. It's like being hit in the chest with a sledgehammer, powerful enough to knock the wind out of you. These are situations that do not occur every day.
But when they do, the consequences can be deadly.
This was very severe. This was a very critical operation.
That point is very clear to the men who have just been overcome by a shockwave of superheated, burning oxygen. 2 of the firefighters suffer first-degree burns. But considering what a backdraft is, it's amazing that no one was killed. A backdraft occurs when a fire has burned all the oxygen in a closed space. The fire begins to suffocate, and the smallest amount of oxygen entering the space creates a blast like this one.
Spontaneous combustion occurs, therefore igniting all the contents that are in a room or area.
It happens in a split second, and anyone in its path is in big trouble.
The blunt force of the sudden rush of air movement coming out of that front door literally can knock firefighters off their feet.
But could they have avoided this fireball? Dan spots something that the men may have missed. This dense yellow smoke is a sign that the fire is starved for oxygen. Dan knows that heeding its warning could have saved these men some pain.
Once again, you see it. Oh boy. It struck me emotionally because these are co-workers, comrades.
It's proof that the Brotherhood of Firefighters goes beyond national boundaries. Warning, no one without a helmet admitted beyond this point. This is the Kamikaze Drop, a rough and tumble bike trail snaking through the mountains of Mammoth, California. In the early 80s, it was a straight-ahead downhill slope, a place for hardcore cyclists to flex their speed. Of course, where there's extreme speed, there are extreme crashes. In recent years, the sport of mountain biking has evolved, and this trail has been redesigned to put the emphasis on skill and technique.
It's hard to say whether the equipment changed the courses or the courses changed the equipment. I think they kind of went hand in hand, and they just, keep leapfrogging each other, and it just pushes the envelope every year.
Though there are no longer as many speedy straightaways like this one on the old Kamikaze, the crashes are still abundant. The challenging trail twists through 3.5 miles of rugged terrain and is scattered with natural and man-made obstacles. Staying upright is no easy task on this steep body bruiser. The new course is unforgiving, and if you hesitate for a second, your ride is through.
Yeah, it's important to not think about the dangers out there, because if you're focused on that, then you're probably not going to be aggressive in the end.
Still, most of the riders agree that it's a risk that keeps them coming back.
Well, the Kamikaze to me has been in the past like the pinnacle of downhill. I like to know that I'm pushing it.
So whether they come for the challenge, the thrill, or just the scenery, as long as bikers continue flocking to this treacherous hill, the Kamikaze will continue living up to its name. 20 miles south of London, England, this tractor trailer carrying 40 tons of tomatoes and grapes went out of control and overturned. When members of the Kent Fire Brigade arrive, They quickly locate the driver and assess that he is uninjured. But good news goes bad fast. He tells firemen there is a small car crushed beneath his trailer. It appears impossible there could be anything under this trailer but the road itself. Sadly, firemen confirm they can see part of a tire under the wreck. The crushed compact is almost certain to be someone's coffin, but the firemen begin the intense process of trying to reach the victims. It won't be easy. The trailer is too heavy to turn upright safely, so they begin to cut its sides. Meanwhile, other rescuers use heavy lifting tools and wedges to raise parts of the trailer. After an hour, their efforts equal about 6 inches. It may be time to give up. But in a miraculous twist, a paramedic hears something from under the tomato-covered tomb.
Hello? Is it an adult we're talking to? Or is it a baby? 37-year-old alive in there.
The operation quickly turns from recovery to rescue when a 37-year-old housewife named Carrie Dutton calls out from under the tons of metal and produce. It's critical that doctors get to Carrie and stabilize her fast. But the extraction team can't move too quickly. Carrie may have internal and external injuries that are under pressure. If that pressure is released in the wrong way, she could bleed out in a matter of seconds.
Okay, is the car pushing down on you anyway?
I'm going to be absolutely sure that when you release the pressure, she's going to come out dead quick. There's not going to be a long pause.
The perilous process moves slowly while the extraction team works. Carrie continues a whispered dialogue with paramedics. Without their reassurance and encouragement, she could drift into shock. Finally, a path is cleared, and doctors move in to assess her condition. Carrie is stable enough for the team to continue, but she feels every shift, cut, and heavy crunch of the twisted metal, and she lets rescuers know it.
Hold on. Watch that in a fight.
After 2 hours of prying and cutting with the jaws of life, the crew informs Carrie they are ready to pull her free. But it could be too late. She is suddenly not responding.
Hang on, there's a blanket here.
Weight off yourself, guys. What's the score with the airway there? It sounds obstructed. Right. Switch that drip off, dump it between the legs. You keep the head, 2 either side. Let's have it out, quick. Come on.
She's out of the wreckage, but Carrie can't breathe.
Get the sucks of the tube ready.
The doctor inserts a breathing tube. It's been 3.5 hours since rescue teams first got on scene, but now time stands still while Carrie clings to life.
Right, okay. Relax. Relax, folks. We're all right.
Is that on, Matt?
That on?
Yeah. It's a moment of relief when the woman's lungs begin to fill with air. Although broken bones and internal bleeding have left her in critical condition, Carrie is stable and evacuated by air ambulance.
As you can imagine, this was a very long and complicated process. It was a very, very difficult, intricate and complicated rescue.
When suspects are on the run, they know their best chance of getting away has 4 wheels and a powerful engine. But when horsepower isn't enough, the more desperate fugitives will resort to manpower. In Phoenix, Arizona, this suspect has had all 4 tires blown out by police. Riding on bare rims, the driver takes 1 corner too fast and careens to a halt in someone's front yard. The suspect bails out and charges inside the house. Officers fear they're in for a hostage situation. But this guy is in flight mode, not fight mode. He flees out the back door looking for an escape. Yet all he finds is a handful of officers who are 1 step ahead of him. Los Angeles, California. Police are in pursuit of a man who doesn't seem as sure about his choice to run. Several times during his chase, this drug suspect is slowed nearly to a stop, only to take off again. Police are baffled by his behavior, until the answer emerges from the passenger side.
The door comes wide open there on the freeway, and it looks like a female gets out, and she runs back toward the highway patrol car.
Apparently, it was a hostage situation, and they never knew it. As the chase rumbles on, the police are given an interesting piece of information from the released captive.
But now we're getting new information that the car is very low on gas. I'm assuming that they've had information from that person that was on board the car.
Low gas isn't the driver's only problem. One of his tires has also gone flat.
He's pulling all the way over off the freeway. And look at that. He opens his car door, and it looks like the tire just completely shredded off.
Knowing his vehicle's done for, the desperate suspect decides to escape on foot. He runs blindly through opposing lanes of traffic, and he's lucky to make it across in one piece. But fleeing on 2 feet doesn't move him very fast. Certainly not as fast as a 4-footed canine unit.
Normally, they're there so they can pick up the scent and find somebody who's hiding. But in this situation, they turned him loose and said, "Go get him, boy."
As the canine takes a bite out of crime, the suspect is surely reevaluating his decision to run. After all, the cops in Los Angeles have daily experience with chases. On another day in LA, police are in pursuit of a stolen car. The suspect drives like a madman as he weaves in and out of rush hour traffic. Officers scramble to catch up as the driver puts other motorists between himself and his pursuers. So long as he can use traffic to his advantage, the road is his domain. But eventually, LA gridlock gets the best of even this maniac, and he's forced to bail out. While the ground units lose sight of the suspect, police choppers track his every step and relay his whereabouts to the officers below. The slippery suspect darts beneath a canopy of trees, where he's camouflaged from the eyes in the sky. It's the only time he's been out of sight since the chase began, and the officers grow nervous. Ground units rush in to find him, and within moments, the suspect is flushed out and sprinting up the freeway. Apparently, you don't have to be in good shape to be a car thief, because the suspect exhausts himself quickly and finally surrenders to the officers hot on his heels. When getaway vehicles end up getting them nowhere, some suspects think they can sprint to freedom. But they quickly find out why police chopper pilots have the saying, "You can run, but you'll only be caught tired." It's a good thing cameras are rolling at this convenience store in St. Petersburg, Florida. If they weren't, this lone clerk on graveyard shift might not believe his eyes when a would-be robber enters the store disguised only in a transparent trash bag. Despite the fact that the man is unarmed, the clerk steps aside, as is store policy. But instead of running away in fear, he stays behind in comedic shock.
He was wearing a clear plastic garbage bag. Didn't even empty the garbage out of it, man. He was covered with garbage and dirt. I just thought somebody was playing a joke.
After enjoying a good laugh, the cashier walks outside, leaving the bagman to figure out how to open the register. He frantically pounds on the keypad, and by sheer chance gets the drawer open. The crook scores about $30 and takes off. On his way out, the clerk fearlessly grabs for the man's bag, ripping the trashy disguise off.
I was never afraid of him, so he was wearing a real simple pair of shorts. There's no place for a gun.
The man escapes, but it doesn't take cops long to catch up. Ironically, it's not his trash bag that gets him caught. It's his trash talk.
He evidently bragged on the street that he had done this.
After his neighbors turn him in, police get to the bottom of his bizarre actions.
It is crazy, but once we apprehended this guy and learned the full story, he's a crack addict. He's using crack cocaine, and he's just trying to supply his habit. And the only way he's able to do that is to steal.
As for the clerk, he's later reprimanded for being too confrontational. But he doesn't regret the way he acted.
I know how to take care of myself. He looked more afraid of me than I was of him. There's an entire TV show down here based on stupid criminals. And this is one of the worst I've seen.
Now the store is back to business as usual. The employees will continue stocking the shelves, mopping the floors, and taking out the trash. They only hope that the next time, the trash will stay out. This isn't Pamplona, and it's not the annual running of the bulls. But for these cops, it's almost as exciting.
You can drive up and down Arrow and see if you see him there.
In California's city of industry, an escaped bull is taking on all comers.
I tried to get him the first time and he challenged me.
Police understand the young bovine's desire to remain free, but the city streets are no place for a country cow. Officers corner the beast, setting up a makeshift bullpen. But one deputy quickly learns that a lasso isn't quite as easy to use as a pair of cuffs. The headstrong steer breaks away and continues his flight. With a little help from some local wranglers, police soon have the bull cornered again, and this time, he's not going anywhere. Still, the animal resists with all its might, and it doesn't take a professional cowboy to figure out why. Cops have the bull tied up in a McDonald's drive-thru, but determined not to become a Big Mac, he supersizes his efforts.
Big Mac, quarter pound.
Thinking he's fighting for his life, the animal struggles well into the night. Eventually, he tires and is subdued. The owners come to cart him off. But as the bull prepares to leave the burger joint's parking lot, he thinks about all his cousins who weren't so lucky and hopes maybe his day-long rampage will leave behind a simple message for the McDonald's patrons. Try the chicken.